Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Live.
I just knew at a young age I wanted to be a broadcaster, and I've been very, very fortunate and blessed to have some wonderful opportunities.
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up. Touchdown! Jordan Westerkamp! Nebraska wins the game!
I've told people all summer, don't bet against me. I'll be in that booth on the 31st because it's been part of my life, all of my life. It's all I know. It's what gets me going every day.
Students are pouring onto the field. The second time they've done that this year. They did it after the Colorado game. And now Nebraska knows they are bowl eligible. The 8-year excruciating drought is behind us.
The first night they wore that hat, Jackson Brockett throws a no-hitter. Man.
Jackson Brockett has the first 9-inning no-hitter for the Nebraska Cornhuskers since 1954.
Brett ready to deliver the first pitch. Breaking ball, that's looped in left field. Gabe Swanson is there. He squeezes it, and your Huskers are Big Ten champions. After losing game one Tuesday night, they come back and win 5 straight and capture the Big Ten tournament for the first time since joining the league.
My wife's been amazing. My daughters have been great. Work has been phenomenal. People like Jessica and Ben. I thank them, but that's not enough. They deserve more. They deserve more than that. But boy, you're catching me here. Thank you to all those people across the state who have sent letters, and I know the prayers are there. I can feel them.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, presented by Centrist Federal Credit Union. Stay safe out there this morning. It's getting a little dicey out there on the roads. DB, how we doing this morning?
We're okay. we are
hanging in there.
Yeah, I remembered how to drive this morning, so that was new.
Oh, so you hunkered down this weekend a little bit.
Yeah. I didn't start my truck one time.
Yeah, it's a good weekend for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And just kind of listening back and talk to just throughout the course of the week and going back and forth with Sharpe, and Ben said on Monday, he's like, hey, let me get down and talk to Greg before I leave for Arizona. And then Jess texts Tuesday morning, and that's when I told you, I'm like, weekend may be tough, right?
Yeah.
Getting to the weekend. And
yeah.
But then there's this part of me that's like, he's kind of a fighter. He's fought forever. And I told Jess and Ben, I said, man, I'm like, I got to get down there to just say thank you. I said, but I'm kind of afraid.
Sure.
This is real time.
Yeah.
For us. I'm kind of afraid. I don't want to overstep my bounds, and but he's just timely when other people would forget or not forget, like there would be oversights or references, or and he felt like I was left out. Like he would always include me.
Mm-hmm.
He's very encouraging. Television is vastly different than radio.
Yeah.
It's extremely different, and that's why I have such an affinity for guys like Kevin, who can paint the picture either way.
Yeah.
And Jess said, and she's not usually her glass stays half full.
Yeah.
Right. And she said, well, just telling you, if there's anything you want to say, better get it all out. So Tuesday, I just dumped. It was whatever, right? I wanted him to know that for all the things that people think that I've accomplished, or whatever people think about my broadcasting career, that the two most influential people in my career arc happened almost 20 years apart.
Hmm.
So there's Kevin, early 2000s, just coaching and loving me up and critiquing and coaching and, setting me up. And then the transition with Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really, really, really hard. And the things that I thought about was, and I told him this from day one, because you have to imagine me kind of walking in as this all of the sudden, and I mean all of the
It's
sudden,
mid-season, right? It's like midweek.
handpicked guy.
Yeah.
And I knew he had a fantastic relationship with Matt. And I'm kind of this outsider. And it's had to be tough, I would think.
Yeah.
He sat me down and just like plowed through it. He's like, "Hey, this is right up your alley. We're going to transition. We're professionals here. Let's have some fun."
Yeah.
And there was significantly more than that, but at the end of the day, and one of the things that I said the other day to him is, people use this a lot. Like, I didn't really have I didn't have like the wherewithal, and I mean, a lot of people knew this was coming, right? And so maybe people had some stuff in the queue. Maybe, it was just everybody grieves differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't muster anything on social media.
Sure.
Just wasn't my deal. And I was talking to Coach Lulla about it, and Kevin, and talked to Rizak. He'd already sent me this book just because of the run that I've been on the last, handful of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Permission to Grieve. And so you think until you really know, and then you start going through social media, and honestly, like some guilt started to creep in. Because I think, and maybe I think one of the connections that I have and that we've been able to have with listeners is sometimes we'll say some things, or we'll admit some things that I think other people have been thinking and wanting to say. They just don't, but we do, because I mean, for me, I've kind of been at the bottom, so shame isn't really a thing for me, right?
Yeah.
You fight gatekeeping death and people's passings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's natural or unnatural, or people go through it, but people talk about, you want to see the worst, and people, experience a few weddings and funerals.
100%. Yeah.
So I went through that a little bit early, and kind of settled down. And the one thing that I kept coming back to, that those that I think like really knew him, the Davisons, the Roars, the Ben McLaughlins, the Lane Grindles. And Ben didn't say anything. And in deals like this with Greg, I always followed Ben's lead.
Sure.
Always.
Sure. Because they're very close.
Yes.
Yeah.
So kind of how Ben handled it is what I would try to do.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, and I literally just followed B-Mac. If he made something okay, then it was fine with me. If Ben was upset with something, then I would be upset with something. Like, that's just what I would do. And the word that I kept coming back to was his humility. Because that's a word that kept kind of was reoccurring with those guys when they would speak about him. And I'm telling you, Ravi, that had to be professionalism is up there.
Sure.
But his humility was like, he's kind of meek, you know, so he had like this quiet strength. And I think it was his humility that that I talked to him. You know, I was talking about modeled behavior. Like he's the quintessential person for modeled behavior. How to go about doing your job. And he's just incredible. I mean, sometimes he was a babysitter. Sometimes he was like he literally would defer. You know, he'd walk into rooms and stuff. I remember we were at a spring practice, and you know, he had his arm in a sling. And you know, I looked at him, and he came over and we talked, and I said, "Hey, you know me really well now. Do I or don't I say anything? Do I ask?" And he shook his head, no, and said, "We'll talk later." So you can know what's what, and you can know something's coming, and it's just never, you just don't get enough practice reps.
Yeah.
You don't. And so the thing I think that I struggle with as somebody that's super competitive is at some point you'd think that I would get better. Just practice. Because that's what I'm used to. It doesn't work like that.
No.
So, you know, there's so many like really cool things, and there was this part of me, you know, I'd pray every day, just get to the 22nd, just get to the wedding, just get to the wedding.
Yep.
That's all I wanted for him, because that's all he wanted. And so, you know, to the girls, and I didn't know him very well. I'd only seen him a couple times in passing, and in particular to like Amy, just like the quiet strength. I mean, people are going to rally, and you know, Amy she's super strong. So, you know, there's that portion that I want them to be okay.
Yeah.
For next week, and such a special day. And you know, I lost my dad 8 days before I got married.
I was going to say, this dynamic strikes strangely close to you.
It's incredible.
Like, weirdly.
It's incredible. And, you know, I'm not in the advice giving business, because they certainly didn't ask. And as hard as it's going to be to be other centered in that moment, and just be like, what would Dad want?
Yeah.
Is paramount. And they'll get through it.
Yeah.
And just, it is really, really strange. And I guess at the end of the day, one of the things that's kind of my favorite is there's this part of me because I mean the voice of the Huskers is it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
And there was this part of me down the stretch, like the last probably year. I just was cheering for a bowl game and a good season.
Yeah.
So somebody that was that quality of a person and that good at his job could experience something really, really good because he had seen it all.
Yeah.
Since he got here. I mean, seen it all. 6, 7, 8 to now with football and baseball. He'd seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted him, I was just cheering for peace. Just peace. And, I just truly a job super well done for a good and faithful servant. The Lane Grindles, the Matt Davisons, the Ben McLaughlins, his family. It's tough.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys that you're a good, like, the accolades fit. I mean, we took in a Wildcat like our very own. Didn't bat an eye at it. Nebraska fans can be tough.
Yeah. Especially outsiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They guard.
Yeah.
They
Very protective.
They will guard their yard.
Yeah.
And they took in Sharpe like a son of a gun. And that's just how you know. Just a good natured.
Yeah.
Light up the room better than you. You know how many times he would like critique tape and take notes. And I told you about the whole time I thought I would listen to his opens. I'm like, how does he do this?
Yeah.
We do it every week. And he was seamless at it. And it just, I don't know, the modeled behavior is, it's how you treat coworkers. It's how you treat people. It's how you do your job. He loved his family. He was something else. And now he gets to have all the broadcasts and calls that he wants. And there's a real one, man. And all just the irony of the scuttlebutt of, what the Super Bowl performance and upper and lowercase A's and all that nonsense that we sang in unison about. I think the best note in the world right now has got to be a G sharp. Right? All about G sharp.
Yeah, it's obviously you and I have very different perspectives on Greg just because I didn't know him personally. And you did and got to work with him and got to be close with him. I do think there's, the only thing I really put on social media was one of the things that I love about sports is, despite, I think I only met Greg a couple times, and the only time I talked to him really was on the show when he would join us. But it gives this opportunity to make people you've either never met before or are pretty much strangers to you feel like either part of your family or really good friends. And I think that's the thing that endeared us to Greg so much was, if you love Nebraska sports, you spend a lot of time with this man, even if you didn't know him, right? Mm-hmm. Spend your Saturday in the fall, you spend your baseball games. I love listening to baseball on the radio. Like, it's a very radio-friendly voice or a very radio-friendly sport. So, I would find myself, I probably listened to more Greg Sharpe radio, baseball radio calls than football, ironically enough. But you get this sense that you know him and that he's a friend, and it's a it's really one of the beautiful things about
That's a
sports
skill.
is the ability to bring people together that are total strangers and they feel like friends. And Greg was so good at that and it sounds like he was really good at that in person too. I always got this dynamic of your guys' little crew. Like he always felt like the dad, and like that he always wanted what was best for you guys. Cause you would tell me these stories and give me a little behind the scenes of how your guys' interactions were and how he's trying to walk you through the stadium in Minnesota. And it takes 20 minutes to figure out you guys are in the two different places.
Even when we'd go try to find breakfast. Ben and I sometimes had breakfast together if we ate out of the hotel, but we'd always use the app and walk.
Yeah.
And even his delivery on how the difference between using, Google Maps walking versus driving was.
Yeah.
You take a deep breath, give it a second, wait till the arrow points the direction the way you want it to go. But I think he was kind of serious, right?
Yeah.
That's how he would be with like his kids.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, oh, this thing, I just hurry up and like go.
Just take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath.
It's like, well, you don't walk as fast as you drive, so it takes a second to, it's just who he was.
But there was always this sense of like this fatherly, when he like take you guys under his wing and kind of help you out, and especially you coming in when you did. You probably identified with it a little bit because that's how he came in, right?
Yep.
He comes in mid-season in 2007. He probably knew how hard it was for you to make that transition because he'd done the same thing. And there's this, you could just tell this empathy from him where he wanted what
he's a caregiver.
He wanted what was best.
He's a definite caregiver.
He wanted what was best for you. He wanted what was best for the guys on the field. He wanted what was best for Jess and Ben and everybody else on the crew. And it's crazy that you can pick all of that up just through listening to him call a sporting event.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to kind of his character and to the man he was. And obviously it's a huge loss for the state. I know.
I remember him just giving me permission to cheer through a broadcast.
Yeah.
A little stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, let it rip. I'm like, can we high five? I mean, is there anything more DB than that? And he's like, yeah, I high five.
There you go.
And he, there are just so many of those cool little things. Hey, I can only open my side of the window if you want. I know you didn't bring a coat.
Mm-hmm.
And he would make it seem like it's okay.
Yeah.
Right? We're Purdue. Then the next time it was a cold weather game, he'd send me a message and he'd say, hey, no, bring a coat. And in my head, I was like, but I thought it was okay. You know what I mean? But his nature is get you through it.
Yeah.
Let's
do better next time.
Let's do better though.
Yeah. It's like it was okay this time.
Yeah.
Next time bring a coat.
It's just little cool stuff like that, man.
Well, that's the one and only Greg Sharpe. Obviously beloved not just by those who knew him, but those who enjoyed his incredible work as well.
Sam, let me ask you something because I couldn't quite put this into words, but you've seen so much, and you've seen you've covered some voices before, and I thought one of the cool things among many about Greg was, and maybe I'm misremembering, but how quickly he seemed to have won over the fan base, which, but number one, could be difficult when, depending on where you come from. Number two, Nebraska wasn't having a ton of success on the football field at the time, and it was midstream. It was tumultuous. But by the end, it was like, he's ours. Am I misremembering that, or you think that's about right?
No, you remember it well, and I'm sorry for your loss and of your friend and your partner, and I'm sure this was a hard weekend for you and for so many people who loved him and worked with him, and talk about just universal praise. Like the words that people had for him were pretty extraordinary. No, I think Greg Sharpe, absolutely won people over with the kind of person he is and just the way he called games. I think he has an incredible voice, and so like he could just use his voice to call anything. You could listen to him, read the phone book, but just maybe the way that he was able to, put emotion into those key moments, but like a lot of Midwesterners, he knew when to, he knew how to just kind of tell a story too, and kind of be right there next to you. And so the way that I interacted most with Greg Sharpe's voice and his work was on Sports Nightly, right? And then baseball, because I'm watching the football games, and there are a few people who cover the team and beat writers who can kind of listen to you guys simultaneously to watching the game. I'll go back and listen to what you guys said, because I'm not good enough multitaskers. But, like, I'd be out in the yard, or I'd be, cleaning something down here, and I'd have baseball on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Greg and Ben, and back in the day it was Lynn Grindle and Nick, and it's just these guys that, and they're just your companion for 3 hours. And Greg's a great companion. Like, he was just such a wonderful presence on a baseball game. He could tell a story. He could get amped up. I remember a game that Nebraska lost, and they lost on a home run, and the way he announced it at the end, he wasn't like harsh or anything. He just said, "My goodness." And that was perfect, And
that's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. He'll go to that to express disappointment, but that's about as disappointed as it sounds.
Right.
That is an absolute gem.
Yeah. So
My goodness.
He did that, and he just had a gift for being able to say so much with only a few words and the inflection of his voice, and the really good ones are able to do that. And so, like, that's much of what I remember. Of course, anytime you would see him, a brief conversation was a warm one, and you could have a long one with him too. And I had a few over the years, maybe not as many as others, but he was always just a great guy, and he will be dearly missed in that role. Obviously, you can't cover all the sports when you're the voice of Husker football, and so that's a family. You're part of the family, Damon. It's you, and it's Jessica, and it's Ben, and it's Matt Coatney, and it's Kent Pavelka, and it's Jake Moeisen, and all that, and so you guys are a family, and that's you lost a member. So again, I'm sorry about that, and everybody's going to be sad for a while. This is going to be tough. I don't know how they plan on handling the spring event, or if it'll even be broadcast on the radio. But that's going to be a tough moment.
When I tell you that discussion is pretty constant and ongoing, I mean it's pretty constant and ongoing. It may be something different tomorrow. There's a lot of ideas, Sam. A lot of ideas.
Yeah.
It's funny that Shane played the Colorado clip, the Tommy Hill pick six with Sharpe, because when you were talking about, hey, I just really wanted a good season and a bowl game or whatever, the first thing I thought was, man, Colorado felt like it used to.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Colorado game felt like it used to. And I'm thrilled he got to experience that again. Because obviously he had his best year was probably 2009 with Sioux. That was probably his best in terms of the team's best year while he was on the call. So it'd been a while since he got to kind of experience that kind of excitement. And man, that Tommy Hill pick six moment was one of those you go, oh, this is going to be one of those days.
Yeah, it's funny. It's so fluid.
Yeah.
But I just remember before that game where I took the walk with Coach Rule around the deal, and he goes, "We're better than them. We're going to beat their ass."
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And I was like,
"Oh."
I didn't say a word. Oh, no, you know what? I take that back. I think I whispered to Benny Mack. I think I went back upstairs because I was on the field, and he was upstairs because he's the only reason him and Josh Hilkeman and Russ. So there's a couple people back at the studio, at gate 21, or is it gate 18? Gate 18. that make that thing happen, right? But BMAC in studio, is like does a lot of the technical stuff, and I'm like, hey, make sure the mics are off. I feel pretty good about this game. Coach Rule feels good. He never says anything like that. And Ben goes, I don't know what you're talking about. What did he say? I was like, oh, sorry. He said that we're going to beat their ass. That is a real thing. I was so taken aback. I forgot to tell him the news. And he goes, why are we whispering? And I'm just like, he's just a comedian. But
You know the weirdest thing about that game?
What?
Is and nobody believes me now but I literally had a dream that night that Tommy Hill was gonna have a pick six.
Yeah.
It was it was longer in my dream. It was
that was fit, dialed in, focused Tommy Hill.
Yeah, we like that version.
Yeah.
We'll see which version.
Just didn't get it a lot.
We'll see which version the combine gets this week. See if he can make himself a little bit of money.
Yeah, that one's gonna be interesting.
Guys, I'm great. What was for breakfast? Or have you not had it yet?
Oh, my favorite, because you and I have had a few breakfasts on the road. So we got an egg plate, we got biscuits and gravy, we got a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, and a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich. What would G Sharpe go with?
Oh my gosh, I can't pass up biscuits and gravy.
Thank you. That's my guy.
You got that somewhere? You got that somewhere in the vicinity? I'm chomping. Let's go.
Sharpe, was breakfast before or after you had to guide him to the right stadium?
That's before.
It was several hours before. Yeah. Yeah, that was the encore.
Yeah.
The trip to the stadium.
Yeah. All right.
Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. We're halfway through the show. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar exterior stage. That was at one of our live breakfasts in the fall.
I think that stretch might have been. Was that Minnesota, I'm guessing he's talking about? So that had to be Keys Cafe. We went to Keys Cafe.
For the stadium, it was definitely Minnesota.
Yeah, we went to Keys Cafe that morning.
How was it?
You know, I ate light because it was a game day.
Yeah, you don't have to eat while you're working.
And I went for the company, not for the meal.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what I had.
Yeah. What'd you have?
I had 6 pieces of bacon and a piece of dry wheat toast. What?
Just very on brand.
Yeah. B-Mac had an omelet. I know exactly what we had.
Did Sharpe have the biscuits and gravy?
Yes, he did.
Attaboy.
Yeah. We walked. It was we passed some really good places too.
Yeah, just like skipping.
But Keys it's popular.
Oh, okay.
And we got in
pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, you know, he's not sleeping.
Yeah, really?
Mm-mm. No, Sharpe's up.
Really?
Yeah.
Biscuits and gravy is my go-to.
I can't remember where we were, but it might have been Purdue. And I always scope out the treadmill. I always go to the fitness room, and I try to get there before, anytime between 6:30 and 7, because usually post 7, people are going to want to get on. 6:30, I got a good window to use what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk downstairs, and he's sitting at the table, like fully dressed, sitting at the table with his mic set up. And it's probably 6:40. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm waiting on Coach Joseph to come down. I want to get the pregame out of the way so he can attack his day. Because, you know, Mickey was kind of first starting.
Yeah.
And even in that moment, Sharpe was so appreciative or so respectful of someone else's time that he didn't want to get Mickey out of his routine of how a normal game day would go.
Sure.
So he's like, well, we'll just get it out of the way. Mickey's like, oh, let's just get it out of the way early, and that way I can go on about my day. I still got Malachi Coleman to call and all these other guys.
Yeah.
And Sharpe obliged. I'm like, that's just to make it easier on Mickey's transition too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, what works for you?
He's a caretaker. He's a caretaker.
Well, I'll not forget that.
Yeah.
It's just the little stuff he does.
For sure. And that's usually, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, that's usually what you remember, right?
I mean, he'd say, you know, that's the team space. We don't need to eat. Let's go do our own thing. Yeah. Like, that's just who he is.
You know, it was Saturday. Like, going into that Nebraska baseball game Saturday night against Vanderbilt. It was one of those where you're kind of just sitting there and you're like, I know it probably doesn't really matter, but please let this baseball team win today.
Yeah.
And obviously they did. They took 2 out of the 3 in Arizona. Got that win over 16th ranked Vanderbilt.
That's a good
win.
It was a well played game, and Irvine's tough. I mean,
Irvine's really good.
So, and I was surprised Nebraska was favored.
Mm-hmm.
Irvine's
really good.
I mean, it's the only team that was in the postseason last year that had 20 wins at home and on the road.
Yeah.
Their pitching is better than a year ago.
Yeah.
I was surprised Nebraska was favored on Friday.
Especially because they've been, like you see, Irvine's been good for a little while.
Yeah.
So they're not really sort of, they shouldn't surprise people. Yeah. But maybe it's a brand name thing with Nebraska that you get the benefit of the doubt, or you're looking at the rankings and you're like, oh, well, Nebraska's ranked.
And I mean, Mason came in pretty highly touted, though.
Yeah.
Just on the struggle bus early, but the bounce back against Vandy, and then they handled business against San Diego.
Yep.
Not a bad weekend for the conference, I guess. I mean, Michigan walked off Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how good that the conference is as a whole. But
yeah, and they'll be back at it again today, staying in Arizona for an extra day and catching up with GCU.
2 of the greater obviously Ben's Open
mm-hmm.
was sensational. But man, go back and listen to Coatney.
Mm.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised at Benny Max just because, and he surprised me with one. It was the first broadcast Sharpe missed.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows how I am, so he didn't tell me that during the pregame that's what he was going to do.
Mm.
I looked at Josh Hilkeman, our engineer, who's like the goat of the goats, and he's looking at me, and it's like, if he would have even remotely warned us, we probably would have walked out. But because he didn't and went into it anyway,
yeah,
like we're just, do you have Kleenex? I don't have Kleenex. Do you have Kleenex? But so but Code is so, he's got that gregarious, he's got the big personality.
Mm-hmm.
He's really funny and he can be sarcastic. For it, like he showed a different level yesterday. Nebraska got off to a good start. Almost got off. Illinois tough.
Yeah.
That's a good basketball team on the road. Felt like I had just seen the inside of that building a couple weeks ago.
Been there recently.
Yeah. Just across the street from where we stayed. But
it's not a bad little campus.
No, it's okay.
It's not bad.
It's okay. Like I went for a walk that morning. It was freezing the morning of the Buckus, and one turn put me like on the back stretch of Nebraska's East Campus. If I would have gone left and not right, I wouldn't have been in kind of like the ag back part.
Mm-hmm.
I could have stayed kind of on, I don't know, it's not even really a strip. I mean, there's railroad tracks.
And I say little campus. It's actually very spread out.
It's so when we came back and we rode the golf cart back that night, I was like, shoot, I should have walked that way in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That gives given me a different vantage point.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a ton to see.
No, there are like stretches of it that kind of look like your typical picturesque college campus and town or whatever. And then you've got the sports complexes sort of in a different area. It is very spread
Apparently,
out. There's a ton of different.
Or by the I Hotel,
mm-hmm.
there's church. So it was Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So it was packed. And then the game had an early tip. It was noon.
Mm-hmm.
So it was packed. So there are a lot
going on.
And there was like some Shakespeare Camelot deal.
So that's where you ended up, right?
You should have heard LeVar Arrington. He's already kind of loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
He's like, and when I say 0 cares given,
yeah,
I mean 0 cares given.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like LeVar is terribly bothered by much.
Somebody would walk by in costume and he'd be like, Macbeth? I know this isn't Othello. He would have those kind of jokes because he's super smart.
Yeah. He was in our former life, he'd be on the air when you'd like come in.
He was telling Christian and those guys, they just sat and chopped it up early on Saturday morning. He was with our AD, how he basically thought his way out of the league.
Yeah.
You know, he
LeVar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, didn't want to take the needle, kind of a natural, holistic guy. He's his own man. You know, he told these great stories about, you know, kind of rubbing Paterno. He's like, you know, he loved Paterno, but how, you know, Paterno just wasn't one of those guys that he goes, well, you know, he kept wanting to be this father figure. And he's like, man, Benny, he's like, I got a dad, and he's a good one. So, you know, I was vibing with him.
Yeah.
Because he's just so honest.
Yeah, he's pretty real.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I'm football now through the week and looking forward to being with you in the booth. The hardest thing for me on game days isn't the prep or any of that. It's keeping you and Cootie on the same page. We'll have Damon on Sports Island, and I work. Jessica, be nice. She goes, well, he'll start something.
No,
Greg,
I never do.
I'll have to I'm going, Jessica, you need to be nice.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. And you wonder why I thought he was like your guys' dad. Just, hey, you two get along.
I'm going to be on with her tomorrow night.
Yeah, Jess?
Yes. I think she'll be nice.
You think so?
I think so. I think so. I haven't.
Is she the older sister?
No.
Not like actual age-wise, but I mean relationship.
No. So we're good at different things.
Okay.
Jess knows where to be, when to be there, and so she can put the ideas in my head. I'm the one, I think, that kind of will make it happen.
Okay. So I think that's what gave me the older sister vibe.
Because I'll always have to ask her, hey, what time?
Where are we going?
Where are we
what
going?
Time?
Yeah, I never know any of that.
So that's, I think, what gave me the vibe.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because that's what I would ask of my older sister. I'd be like, wait, where are we supposed to be? What are we supposed to do?
And she'll tell me something like 8 or 9 days in advance.
And then you're going to have to ask again day
Which,
of.
for me, you reach a point of diminishing returns. I'm probably somewhere between give me 4 or 5.
I was going to say 2 or 3.
Like especially if I already have to be there.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. Now,
like if it's a matter of you're going to be
I'll
both,
be there anyway.
Yeah, you're both going to be in Minnesota
or wherever.
You're just trying to get specific as opposed to, hey, DB, we need to get you to this place.
Right.
That's a different story.
Like I can't remember. I'm somewhere this weekend and it's far and I needed to know well in advance.
Sure. Yeah. But that's not already going to be their deal.
No.
Yeah.
And I found out the actual details, like the details.
Yeah.
On Twitter. Like a guy, he's like, hey, you're going to be like 15 minutes away from me.
You're like, am I?
But I knew it. I knew it was Saturday. And I didn't know who I was going to. I just knew I was with Sty.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah.
But now I know the details. I had to blow up the flyer on
on your phone.
I did. I was like, okay, 4:30 to 7:30. I got it.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just saw Sty at Calvin's funeral, but that wasn't near the time or the place to shore up
You'd be like, hey,
work details.
Yeah, can I get the itinerary there?
Yeah.
What? Where is he? Is he still around town?
Sty?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still working for the university.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I see him. So about every 2 or 3 trips, he'll have some huge donors on the plane.
Sure.
So he still does good work.
Those are Sty's guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I just like to see him have to get on those planes.
It's a little tight squeeze.
Well, it's not often he's going to be like a regular sized guy, but with some of those linemen, he looks like a regular sized guy, even though he's a monster.
It is kind of, I think about this sometimes, and Sty's from around here, right?
No, he's from Yorba Linda, California.
Oh, okay. I thought he was one of the guys that was around. So he's a really good example of this. It is really kind of funny to me how many of the guys that either played with you or after that have stuck around.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of other frame of reference for it, but it seems unusual.
I thought it catches me off guard.
Because a lot of these guys are not from here.
Yeah.
And they just stick around.
I think it speaks to the warmth of the state.
I agree.
It's very inviting. Kind of like what we were saying about Sharpe. He won over the people
quickly,
being from someplace else. And it's not like he didn't have the benefit of just being part of something good or dominant.
No, it was tough when he came in.
It was tough.
Yeah.
Like he had to seriously weather the storm.
Because he came in halfway through
Look at the baseball
Callahan's
coaches
last year, right?
Look at the baseball coaches.
Yeah.
That wasn't easy either.
Yeah, it wasn't all rainbow and butterflies.
On the heels of playing in a CWS.
Yeah, just a couple years before that, right? Like it wasn't nearly as long ago when he started as it seems now.
That's why I'm saying, and sometimes we can be hard on those people because everything else is bad, and negative. So you do the association. I never had that problem.
Yeah, that is one of the things that I find most unusual is how beloved he is, considering he didn't really preside over a great time. And for either program,
and
really.
you know the other thing.
What's that?
He never had to be out in front. He never had to be out in front.
What do you mean?
He didn't like introduce his presence.
Oh, it didn't need to be about him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
And he never had the like. It's just for a guy that made a living behind the mic. He didn't have to have it in front of his face for you to be drawn to him.
Yeah, that is a unique skill.
I'm just telling, like walk through it in your. Believe me, I spent fair enough time. Walk through it in your head about like the power and the magnitude of what he was able to accomplish to impact people's lives, speaking to them indirectly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, wasn't like didn't get the benefit from a feel good. Everybody was all in. Hey, welcome to the family. We're having no. It was tough.
Yeah, it wasn't during the paradise portion of the programs.
I have a one other clip I'd like to play.
What do you got?
That I clipped out from when he was on the show.
I looked at DB at halftime. I go, wait a minute, Ramir hasn't had a carry yet tonight. What's going on? And then we're like, Jess, check on Ramir, and then she's like, he's in street clothes. I'm like, what the heck? Did he just take the night off? And they go, oh, we're good, Ramir. We got this. Go out and get your runs and come on back and enjoy the second half.
That's funny.
That was really funny.
And the funny thing about that is I go back and listen to what was going on with Ramir, and I knew he had gotten kind of dinged, and then he missed a couple of games, but we didn't really know what was going on. And then you go back and you hear the story of what had happened with his mom. And I wondered if just emotionally he just wasn't ready to.
Yeah, wasn't ready to go.
Yeah, just a lot. There's a lot of that cool stuff.
It's kind of funny. I think there's some similarities in the way I think about Greg and the way I think about Coach Rule, right? In the sense that when Coach Rule got hired, one of the things I kept talking about was he feels like one of us, even though he's not from here. That, I think, was the big thing with Greg. He felt like a Nebraskan, even though he wasn't born and raised here, didn't have that.